We are we are looking into the Gospel according to Matthew, the 14th chapter, verses 22 to 33. And if you choose to follow on the Pew Bible, you will find it on page 16 of the New Testament section. Immediately, he made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But by this time, the boat, battered by the waves, was far from the land, for the wind was against them. And early in the morning, he came walking towards them on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified, saying, "It is a ghost!" And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them and said, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." And he said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat, started walking on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he noticed the strong wind, he became frightened, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" When they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." Please pray with me. Let me just get something. Let's pray. Do not fear. We come to you knowing, God, that you are the one who gives us the peace that passes all human understanding. And knowing that even though we walk through the shadow of death, you are with us. We pray for your Spirit to speak to us, to comfort us, and to empower us by your Spirit to stand on the water with you. May the word of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable and glorifying to your holy name. Amen. Fear not. Do not be afraid. These are the words that we see quite often in the Bible. We hear these comforting words in so many different parts of the stories that we hear from, say, Abraham and Sarah, as they were facing so many challenges as they wait for the birth of a promised son. They were spoken to Moses as he spends 40 years leading the Israelites to the promised land. Mary, Joseph, and the shepherds tending their flocks hear these words as well as they partake in the story of Jesus' birth. The women who were so shocked to see the empty tomb were told by angels, "Do not be afraid." Apostle Paul, sitting in jail, awaiting his own death, hears the same words. So I thought it was interesting that when I Googled different variations of "fear not," "do not be afraid," I found several sites citing that in the Bible, the different variations of "do not fear," do you know how many times it happens according to these sites? Too many? Not enough? Yes, exactly. Yes, I'll get you. Who said that? Whoa, yes, you guessed right. Well, it says, and these, I didn't cross-check them, but these sites, they say that there are different variations 365 times. How many days are there in the year? Good guess. So one for each day. Interesting, huh? Well, I think the day when the disciples were caught themselves in this violent storm was the day they needed to hear these words. Do not be afraid. The Sea of Galilee is very interesting. It's very calm. But there are times when a sudden, violent uproar of storms can happen. The surface of the Sea of Galilee is 680 feet below sea level, surrounded by steep cliffs and hills. The air over the body of water, heated by the sun, rises. As it rises, the cool air rushing down the hills and across the water with great force causes extremely dangerous storms. The disciples were caught during one of these storms after they were made by Jesus to get on the boat and to go to the other side ahead of him. Meanwhile, Jesus is alone, having some self-care time and a renewal time with the Lord after a long day of teaching and feeding at least the 5,000 men, so approximately 15 to 20,000. It is also his time to be in prayer. But things are not as calm over the water. The disciples have been battered by the waves all night long. For it is in the early morning, while the disciples were still trying to survive, that they see Jesus coming. At least they don't know it's Jesus yet. They see a figure coming to them. And as Pastor Christy shared, they were frightened. They thought that it was a ghost. We need to give them some credit because superstition was plenty at the time, that the ocean, the sea, is not a very safe place for people. As soon as they call out, "It's a ghost," it is immediately that Jesus introduces himself to the disciples, saying, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." I don't know if the disciples were frozen with fear that it did not register what Jesus was saying. Under any other calmer situation, his introduction would have caused awe right away. See, the word in Greek, it is I, is ego eimi. In the Hebrew, it means Yahweh, the divine God. Had they heard it, they would have felt, whoa, God is here. But they don't hear it. Maybe the roaring sea was too loud. Maybe the fear was just too much, at least for the 11 disciples. For Peter proposes a strange test to confirm the identity of the supposed ghost. He wants to walk on water. He asks, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." Command me. Not just ask or tell me or suggest me or propose me, but command me to come to the water. Maybe he needed a command to do something so scary as to get on the water while the storm is going on. But I thought it was an interesting choice of word. And Jesus says, "Come." As if it is a tea party or something. And Peter steps out on the water, and I don't know what to think about Peter and his crazy notion on walking on the water. I don't know how I would have reacted if Jesus had said, "Come on over. Come. Walk on water." There's a part of me just wants to say, "Oh, no. I was just kidding. I was just kidding. I don't really mean it." But you know what, Jesus, really, if anything, it should be the other way around. Why don't you come in on the boat and do something about this mess? After all, it was your crazy idea for us to get in the boat and go to the other side in the first place. Do something about it. Take responsibility. That's what I would have said. But impetuous Peter gets out of the boat, and for a few seconds, maybe more, who's counting when a grown man does walk on water until reality settles in and he sinks? The reality was that what he was doing was scary and dangerous thing, and fear took over. As he sank, Peter yelled out, "Lord, save me." Immediately, Jesus reaches out his hand and becomes a lifesaver. As soon as Peter is above the water, Jesus asks, "You little of faith, why did you doubt?" We don't hear Peter's answer, do we? But Jesus doesn't wait for an answer as they climb into the boat and the wind ceased. And they all cried out, "Truly, you are the Son of God." Really? He said that already while he was on the water. Ego eimi. I am your God, Yahweh. But it wasn't until their fear subsided, when the wind ceased, that they were able to realize that God was with them in the boat. Years ago, a mission team from a congregation went to Haiti to do some literacy, to open up a clinic, and provide help. The volunteers were stretched emotionally and physically at the end of the trip. They purchased as a gift a wood carving to the leader who had inspired them to take this missionary work. It portrayed Jesus with his arms around the 12 disciples, all of them portrayed by the artist in various stages of anxiety, fear, and disbelief. His arms and shoulders formed the rim of what became a fishing vessel. And the artist declared, quote, "It is a perfect image for the church. We are the people who are in the boat with Jesus." Or we could say, Jesus is in the very boat that you and I ride, whether we find ourselves in calm serenity or in the tumults of chaos that drowns us. I have always found it interesting that Matthew put these two miraculous stories next to each other. Remember last week, what was it? The feeding of the thousands of people? Incidentally, this miracle is also mentioned by all four Gospels, as it was the feeding of the thousands. The previous miracle that we looked into last Sunday had to do with one of humanity's basic needs of physical well-being. In the feeding of the thousands, we see how Jesus heals the body, a physical well-being, and feeds the body, which is another need for physical well-being. In today's miracle, we see the calming of mind and spirit. In this story, Jesus taps into humanity's other basic need for security and protection and the riddance of fear and anxiety. They go hand in hand. Yes, the disciples had every reason to be afraid. 12 men could not steady the boat. Many of them were professional fishermen. They've been struggling all night long. They were, in a way, experiencing the dark night of the soul. Could their meaning of drowning include all the different ways we find ourselves drowning? When we find ourselves in over our heads in this world, fear is a natural outcome. When life gets out of control, anxiety is expected. When fires are swept by harrowing winds in Maui, in the Big Island, exasperation takes over. A few days ago, I saw an article that suicide in young people, young adults, have been at its highest. We hear of little toddlers getting sick with cancer. Older people get cancer as well. No one is immune. Marriages breaking up, people breaking up sobriety. Reports are now rising of the new strain of COVID-19. Lately, I see more and more people going back to wearing masks. Maybe that's what we need to do. There are plenty of reasons to be afraid. Yet, I like the way one of my favorite theological writers, Debbie Thomas, clarifies how we are to approach this concern about fear. She wrote, quote, "The issue is not fear. The issue is where fear leads." End of quote. She explains that Peter had every right to be afraid. The issue is that his fear leads him into suspiciousness and doubt. He asked, "If it is you, then do something extraordinary, like allowing me to walk, commanding me to walk on water." I will be the last person on earth to blame Peter. I see myself in Peter's doubt over and over. I fail to see the work of God's hands in my life when the going is not exactly the way I want it to go. But looking back, I see how God has been present in mysterious ways. What about the times when my relationship with God is more transactional, to the point that I engage in bargaining? Okay, God, you do this for me, and then I will do this for you. As Debbie Thomas stated, to truly trust Jesus is to hold two pictures of God's kingdom in productive tension. Yes, sometimes Jesus demonstrates his power miraculously in technicolor ways. At other times, though, we need to trust that his incarnation, his quiet, abiding presence in our world, in our untamed lives, is sufficient for the circumstances we face. Sometimes, Jesus' power is paradoxical, she writes. It comes to us in what looks like vulnerability, like weakness, like strangeness. And I love the way she ends it. The wildness of the sea is no proof of God's absence. And in the case with Peter, as it is in the case with all of us, I believe, Jesus asked, "Why did you doubt? Why did you doubt?" As I ponder on this question during this week, it occurred to me that the times when Jesus asked this question with other characters in the Bible, It is never in a condemning way. It is never in a condescending way. It is never in a punishable way. It is never in a you, in a negative way. And the other thing I've noticed about Jesus when he asked, why did you doubt? Is that he rarely waited for an answer. He doesn't get an answer, and he doesn't wait for one. How do we answer that? Why did you doubt, you little of faith? Do we tell Jesus that we will believe him when and if the conditions are set in the way we want them to be? Do we tell him, hey, we're sorry, but hey, I doubt. What am I going to do? I'm not quite there to believe you. I can't trust you all the way. There is no answer to this question. And you know what? Jesus knows that. Jesus knows that we cannot answer that. So as Jesus showed compassion to the thousands who needed physical food and healing, Jesus had compassion for the fearful disciples. And the way he shows his compassion is how quickly he attends to their needs. How many times did you hear the word immediately in this text? I know it's not a good question because I should have told you I was going to ask you this. 3 times. 3 times. And the 2 times Matthew uses the word immediately, it is to let us know how quickly Jesus reacts to give the answer to the fearful 12 disciples when he says, it is I, ego eimi, your God Yahweh. He introduced himself immediately. The second time he said, Matthew said, Jesus reacted immediately was when he reached down to grasp Peter's hand as he was drowning. This is very interesting because Matthew is not known to use the word immediately. That belongs to Mark, who always is in a rush and he wants to get to the next point and he uses immediately left and right. But I love it that Matthew uses it to show us how immediately Jesus, with compassion, reaches out to let us know that he is indeed Yahweh, God amongst us. Immediately reaches out to hold our hands, to let us know that yes, in the midst of fear, I'm still with you. For as Hebrew 13 says, Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. I don't know all the challenges you face. I do know that we do have them. I do not know the burdens you carry. We do know that we all have them. I cannot presume to know what fears are nipping at your heels, but I do know this. Christ is greater than our fears, and he walks upon the waves that we ride. And he comes to us on any water we stand. And when he is with us, for he is with us, we may see him. The sheer power of his authority might, in a way, overwhelm us. But we never have to be afraid, for Jesus is the one who gets on the boat with us. He chooses to come to us across the turbulent waves. And the way I think we should see this story, besides all the miracle, besides how Jesus immediately responds to the cares of the disciples, I like to end this text with this awareness that Jesus keeps coming to us. He came to the disciple as he saw them in turbulent waters. He came towards them. He came towards Peter as he was drowning. He came towards the disciples and got on the boat. This is a story of Jesus continuously coming to us, moving forward to us, and reminding us as we stand on turbulent waves, take heart. It is I. Don't be afraid. Amen.